Firebird. I grew up in a time where being mixed heritage was socially unacceptable. I had equal amounts of Native American from both parents, and even though there's Irish, German, Welsh, and English there, too, it was Native American blood that won out in the end. Jet black hair, dark eyes, and sun-kissed skin in a world that was primarily white stood out like a sore thumb. In other words, it made me a target. Half-breed, dirty Injun, squaw, redskin, Pocahontas. Boys would yell at me in school, all of these names. And those are some of the nicer things I was called, too. I can't bring myself to say the rest of the slurs that were hurled at me growing up. I did my best to ignore them, to keep my head down and try to stay under the radar, but it was impossible. "Hey, Pocahontas, do a rain dance for us," was one of the favorite taunts of the bullies at school. "Better watch out, she'll go on the warpath and scalp your ass," was the other favorite thing to say. My teachers were sympathetic, or at least I thought they were, until the day I caught a group of them sniggering and saying things like, "Wonder if she's got one of those headdresses with all the feathers," and "Bet you can gut a deer and have the hide done in no time flat for a dress and shoes." From elementary school to junior high, and then high school, my peers and my instructors alike continued to call names. To bait, taunt, and tease me. I'd find crudely drawn pictures in my locker of what I assumed was supposed to be me wearing garb meant for a shaman. Apparently these kids really didn't understand my heritage or my culture at all. They'd leave notes, too, just as crudely written.
"The only way any man would want you is with a bag over your head to hide that big, ugly, flat nose of yours, squaw. I sure would love to give you a hug, around the neck with some rope, you worthless red-skinned bitch. If I'd given birth to you, I'd have drowned you in the creek."
Lovely people my peers were. Sometimes wonder how the hell I made it through school without violence.
"Violence isn't the answer.
My father told me once when I went to him crying because of something some stupid boy had said to me.
Show them you're stronger than to let their words hurt you."
After high school, I got a job working at the local library. I love books, and I didn't mind that the pay wasn't so great. The job was easy. Check books in, check books out, collect late fees, reshelve books, clean up, and go home. The patrons weren't easy, though.
"Not letting her touch my card.
One old lady proclaimed loudly. Nose in the air, she pointed at me.
Who knows what she might give me?"
After a particularly trying evening, my coworker approached me. "Why do you just take the abuse?" Jasmine asked, her brow furrowed. "You don't have to just take it, Rain." "If I lash out, where will that get me?" I countered evenly. "Jobless and with a black mark on my employment history, that's where. I can't afford to lose my job, even if most of the patrons are self-absorbed, snooty bitches." She considered me for a moment. "That's assuming you get caught." "What are you suggesting I do?" I asked, confused. Jasmine smiled, then, "We'll talk after work. Just trust me, Rain." When 8 came, she and I organized the library, cleaned it up, and then locked up and left. I didn't have a car then, so I found myself getting into her Honda to go who knew where. Still, Jasmine had been nice to me, genuinely nice to me. She drove us out of the city, out into the woods on the outskirts of town, and there she parked in a pull-off, near a trail that led deep into the forest. Turning to me, she sighed. "Even if you don't want to take my advice here, please never tell anyone we had this conversation, okay?" "I'm not that kind of a person, Jazz," I told her. "You know that." "I do, and that's sort of why I brought you out here," she said. "I really like you, Rain, but you're such a pushover. It's time to start fighting back, and you can't let those bullies win." "So that's it?" I asked, a pep talk about being more assertive? Her expression grew shuttered. No, this isn't some silly pep talk, Rain. You see that trail over there?" At my nod, she took a breath. "The trail leads to a grave. I don't know if they were a shaman or just an elder of the tribe, but the legend says that if you go to the grave and ask for help, you'll receive it, after you complete a ritual for them." Jasmine hesitated, and I saw a hint of fear in her eyes. "They're powerful, Rain. Whoever is buried there is very powerful and doesn't put up with bullshit. The police have pulled bodies out of those woods, bodies of jackasses thinking they were going to fuck with the grave." "And you want me to go back there and try my luck with them?" I asked, incredulous. You aren't white, Rain, she stated bluntly. You may have white mixed in, but your heritage shows clearly. She took my hand, her face earnest. Please, go for your sake. Just go. I found myself getting out of her car and looking at the trail leading into the woods. Taking a deep breath and trying to shrug off how foolish this felt, I started down the trail, with a small penlight to show me where I was walking. The trail wound deep into the heart of the forest until no sounds could be heard around me. It felt like I walked for miles before I found myself in front of a small mound of rocks. This was the grave, then, if Jasmine was correct. I stood before it for a moment, not knowing what to say, or if I needed to say something at all. I'm told you might help me, I finally murmured, kneeling by the rocks. Why do you need help? I started at the voice behind me, but didn't turn around. I wasn't sure I really wanted to see him. Quietly, I explained the abuse I'd endured over the years because of my mixed heritage, adding that my father had cautioned me against lashing out. Your father lacks the courage to show you the way of things, he hissed. Very well, I will teach you, but you must do precisely as I ask you, girl. Fail, and you are on your own permanently. I give my word, Elder, I breathed, and the world as I knew it fell away from me. The tests I endured were like something out of a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I had to face every single one of my bullies from childhood until present while they screamed slurs at me. I had to face my own parents, with them telling me they wished I had never been born. He had me lie on a bed of live scorpions while they stung me over and over, the whole time forcing me to repeat the words he threw at me. I ran naked through a field in the middle of a thunderstorm with venomous snakes snapping at me as I ran while lightning tried to strike me. He put me through absolute hell, and just when I thought it was over, he laughed and threw me into the fire again. When he thought I was ready, when he had tempered me enough, when he had taught me the way of things, he taught me the secret language of the earth and of everything that lived on it. I was broken completely by his hand, burned to ash even, and then he called me from the fires to be reborn and rise anew. Your parents named you Rain, but you were more like the Firebird, he said, placing both hands on my shoulders. Now go. You have been here long. Much longer, and they will think you dead. When I emerged from the woods, it was daylight, and Jasmine was nowhere to be seen. I went to check my phone, and I realized I felt different, somehow. Looking myself over as best I could, I saw that I was still wearing the black cotton pants and boots with the purple top, but my skin was darker now. A breeze brought a lock of hair into my view, and I started again. How was I going to explain how my reddish-black hair was now like a raven's wing and straight as an arrow? Why do you care, Rain? I smiled grimly. You're right, I murmured, and pulled out my phone to call someone to pick me up. It was a good thing that I lived alone. At least I didn't have to face my parents until I'd have enough time to decide how to handle them best. They would both be disappointed in me, I knew, but they hadn't endured the cruelty that I had either. When Jasmine pulled into the little pull-off, shock registered on her face. Rain. Jesus Christ! She exclaimed. I thought you were dead. You've been gone for 3 days now. He told me if I stayed much longer, everyone would think that, I said, getting into her car. I would guess I need to find a job now. You still have the job at the library, actually. Really? I asked, surprised. I thought Carol would have fired me immediately. Jasmine offered a half smile. Well, to be honest, I talked her out of it, she admitted. I couldn't let go of the hope that you weren't dead. Just a feeling. I'm glad I was right. She glanced at me as she pulled out of the small turnaround. You seem different now. That's good, I think. She took me to the studio apartment and dropped me off, telling me I had 2 hours before time to go in. I unlocked my door and went inside to where my front mirror was. Oh, I muttered weakly, looking at myself. Different wasn't the right word. I looked exotic. There is no way no one would notice all the changes. My nose was no longer big and flat, for one. It was thinner, almost like a small blade on my face. My cheekbones were far more defined than they had been, for another. I'd lost some fat, too. Not that I had much of that to start with, but I could tell by the shape of my hands and how the pants fit me now that I was smaller. My eyes were black instead of just brown, and then there was the brown skin to finalize. I need a bath, I decided, stripping out of my clothes to go into the tiny bathroom and clean up. Yeah, I had definitely lost some weight, and gained some real curves in the process. Since my hair appeared to be clean, I pulled it up in a bun on top of my head, got in the shower to wash it up. I found myself turning the hot tap up, though, to a warmer temperature. After the shower, I slathered on my good lotion, applied a tiny bit of eye makeup, eyeliner, mascara, touch of earthy shadow, and some earthy lip stain as well. Then I went back into the bedroom area to open the closet and realized my clothes were different. He hadn't just changed me, he had changed my whole life, it appeared. Vibrant reds, purples, yellows, gold, and copper met my eyes instead of the drab colors I usually preferred. Choosing a crimson summer dress with copper earrings and a bracelet, I got myself dressed and eyed myself in the mirror one final time. Satisfied with how I looked, I checked the time and called myself a cab to work. The cabbie was a white-haired gentleman who smiled and opened the door for me to get in. "Where to, doll?" he asked. "The library, please. Thank you," I replied. His term of endearment a welcome change from what I'd been used to. "College student?" he asked, heading down the road. "No, actually I work there," I replied. "Pretty thing like you in that dusty old place?" he teased. "A young lady with your looks should be a model." "I'm flattered," I said. "I enjoy it, though. I love books." "Always good to have a job you enjoy," he told me, nodding. When I walked through the doors, you could have heard a pin drop. I could feel the stares, but I pointedly ignored them, heading straight for the office to check in for my shift. Carol looked up at me from over her glasses when I walked in. "Someone got some sun," she remarked dryly. "I did yard work for my mother while she was in the hospital," I lied. "She was worried about her flowers, so I took care of them for her." She continued to stare at me for a while longer. "She pay for that nose job, too?" Angry, I turned around to face her. "My nose has been like this for some time now. Had anyone actually paid attention?" I stated flatly. "But since everyone has been too busy calling me half-breed, Pocahontas, and Squaw, I imagine no one gave a damn, Carol." She sat back, laughing some. "Well, so she does have claws after all," she mused. "Good. You're gonna need them, Rain. This world's a cruel old place, and it don't get no better." "Like you would know, you old bitch," I thought uncharitably, signing myself in and going to the desk where Jasmine waited for me. She gave me a once-over, smiling and nodding. "I really like the change, I have to admit," she told me, hugging me briefly. "Let all that gorgeous hair down, though, will ya?" Laughing, I took my hair down, letting it fall around me like a curtain. Jasmine got a call at 6 from her mother. Her dad had been in a wreck and was in critical condition, and her mom wanted her to come to the hospital with her. I could see the worry in her face, and her eyes kept darting to me. "Go, Jazz, I can handle it," I told her, brow furrowed. "Are you sure?" she asked, clearly uneasy about leaving me alone. "I don't like the thought of you being here alone if some asshole comes in." I smiled. "I can handle it, I promise." I assured her and all, but pushed her out from behind the desk. Your mom needs you. Go. I promise I'll be all right." At around 7, the snooty old bitch who'd snubbed me before walked into the doors. Upon seeing me at the desk alone, she faltered a bit, but covered it up and kept walking. "Carol is supposed to have a book for me," she stated. I looked beneath the counter. "Your name, please?" She huffed. "Like I would want you knowing my name," she muttered. I straightened up with a sharp look. "Well, if you don't want to deal with me, I suggest you leave and come back Monday when Carol is back to work," I snapped. "How dare you speak to me that way?" she cried. "Do you know who I am?" "Oh, of course you don't, silly me. You're just a half-breed that your poor mother should have aborted." "No, I don't know who you are," I murmured, ice lacing my voice. "But you evidently don't know me either." A buzzing sound was heard from the other side of the desk where she stood, and when she looked down, she started to scream shrilly. "Snake! There's a snake in here! Do something!" "Why should I?" I asked, regarding her mildly. "I'm just a half-breed my mother should have aborted. Isn't that what you just said?" "You worthless little bitch!" she hissed, glaring at me, and made the mistake of moving. "Oops." A scream left her as the rattler sank fangs deep into her leg. "Oh God, it's bitten me! Call someone, damn you!" I just shrugged and walked away from the desk to go organize some books. "I'll I'll call someone when you decide to be nice to me, I murmured. As I don't see that happening, I think you're shit out of luck. 10 minutes later, I did call the paramedics. I must have been in the back organizing books. I just found her at the desk unconscious, I explained. When they arrived, she was dead. I stuck to my story, though, even going so far as to show them what I had to do before closing and how far the books were from the desk that I was working on. They seemed puzzled by her death, but it was clear that I couldn't have caused it, so they left with her. I resumed my duties, organizing shelves and going about cleaning and doing what needed to be done. At 5 minutes till 8, a group of about 6 guys came into the library. I had finished my chores and was just waiting until 8 to close, so when they walked in, I wasn't happy. As they drew near me, the smell of alcohol assaulted my nose, and I knew they were probably going to give me problems. You know the library closes at 8, I said evenly. Well, if it ain't the half-breed. I kept my expression blank, even though I now knew who the 6 were. These assholes were the same ones that had followed me through school, taunting and insulting me. Jeff, Brad, Jason, Scott, Chuck, and David. Jeff was the ringleader. He came from money and was untouchable by the law, as I'd found out once back in high school when he tried to force himself on me. They all approached the desk where I sat, identical leers on their faces. Looking good, Pocahontas, Brad said, his eyes crawling over me. For worthless Scott, you got some great tits. I think she ought to show them to us, Scott expressed. Yeah, I think this bitch needs to show us what's under the dress. Or what? I asked, my tone flat. Or you're gonna disappear, bitch, Jeff hissed. You think Daddy will save you this time, Jeff? I raised one eyebrow, as I regarded him through black eyes. I'm not that same stupid girl, so think hard this time. Considering my family owns this town, I know he will. Jeff spat. Who'd miss a half-breed bitch like you besides that? He started around the desk towards me. I think Carol won't mind finding you gone come Monday. No one else will either. A low growl reverberated through the darkness in the back, making him pause in his steps. You sure of that, Jeff? I asked again. I'm afraid of some mutt, he scoffed, and was about to walk up to grab me by my hair when the timber wolf came into view behind me. What the fuck? I got this, Scott said, drew a pistol and shot the wolf between the eyes. The wolf just turned his head and snarled at him, exposing very sharp, white canines. What the fuck is this shit? Scott cried, and emptied the pistol into the wolf, who continued to just snarl at him. What the hell is going on here? Funny you should use that word, Scott, I murmured. You 6 put me through utter hell in school. I think it's the time you found out what hell really is. The front doors bolted closed behind them, and all the lights went out in the building. Oh, fuck this, Jeff snapped and reached over to grab me by my hair. I'm pretty sure he immediately regretted that decision when the coral snake slid out of my hair and bit him. Ow, you fucking crazy bitch, he yelled, snatching his hand back even though it was too late. Who the fuck keeps snakes in their hair? What the fuck are you? I'm just a dirty squaw half-breed according to the 6 of you, I hissed. No one will miss me, right, Jeff? I wonder if the same can be said about all of you. The desk area filled with rattlers, coral snakes, and a few copperheads. From above, a hawk screamed and began diving at them, its talons raking their heads. A second timber wolf joined the first one, and together they began corralling the 6 towards the waiting jaws of the snakes. No, please, Jeff yelled, turning frantic eyes to me. I'm sorry, please, let us go. We'll never bother you again, I swear. I'm too young to die. In that moment, I made a choice. I had 2 options regarding them. I could call off my guards and see if they kept their word, which I really didn't believe they would. No, bullies like Jeff and his friends never kept their word to anyone. Or I could call off my guards, let them think they were safe, and then handle things myself. The elder had taught me well, after all. Sacrifice must always be worth the final cost, I echoed, remembering what he had told me. Books could be replaced, buildings could be rebuilt, but the damage these assholes could do to others besides me will never be repaired. The snakes, hawk, and wolves disappeared instantly, leaving them alone in the library with me. As expected, they immediately started for me again, with rage and fear etched down their faces. You're going to die for this, bitch. Jeff spat. No, Jeff, I don't think so, I murmured. raised my hands, sweeping them in an arc around me. Flames shot up from the floor at once, blazing around 6 feet high. It licked at the 6 of them lazily, forcing them to huddle together tight in hopes of not being burned alive. Jeff must have thought he stood a chance at burning me in them, because he reached out to snatch a handful of my hair and jerked me into the flames. I simply stood there in them, laughing at him. Sweeping my hands out again, I set the entire building ablaze. Then I stood there staring at them, watching the flames greedily consuming them. They didn't stop screaming for a while. When they had burned to ash, I unbolted the front doors and walked out into the night air. I could hear sirens in the near distance. I needed to leave. The firemen would find 7 bodies inside when they pulled out the fire, and that would satisfy them as far as what happened. The 7th body wasn't me, but they would assume it was, and that was all that mattered. No, the 7th was a simulacrum the Elder had taught me to make. As I turned the corner, I found the same cabbie sitting there, staring at the burning library. On seeing me emerge unhurt, he got out of his car and approached me, his brow furrowed in concern. "Are you hurt, doll?" he asked. "I saw the fire. They called the fire department. I was scared you were trapped in there." "It's all right," I told him. "My purse and everything in it got burned up, I'm sure, but I managed to find a way out." "Them things can be replaced," he said. "People can't." Nodding, I turned to look at the flames shooting up into the sky. "Time to find a new job, I guess." He looked at me then. "What do you say to having dinner with an old man?" he asked. "My grandson is a photographer for a fashion magazine out west. I think you'd enjoy it, doll. They ain't so close-minded out there." Smiling, I nodded. "I would be honored to be your date tonight." "I'm Rain." "Name's Henry," he returned and looked at me. "Hey, Rain don't suit you, doll. Phoenix would be a better choice, I think. You rose from the ashes, after all." I glanced at the library one final time. "I did, didn't I?" I mused and got into his car. If you enjoyed this, thank you for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe. That little bell button will give you notifications whenever I upload, which is about once a week, sometimes more, if I have time. Yeah. Thank you very much, Dances with Storms, for being awesome enough to write this story out. To be honest, I got more of a terrified feeling from thinking about the burning books. I'm very much a bookworm, so the idea of an entire library full of them burning to the ground is kind of just nightmare-inducing. Anyways, yeah, I'm always looking for images, guys. So if you have pictures of horrible creatures and like ghosts and monsters, and it doesn't matter if you're a pro or not, I'd love to be able to add some extras to my videos. So if you'd like to share something, I'm on DeviantArt and I'm on Reddit, and you can email me all at littlehorrorstories@gmail.com for the email, of course, and DeviantArt and all that stuff. Anyways, yeah, have a good night and beware the dark. That's where the monsters dwell, after all.